Welcome back to another episode of Reading the Bible Every Day Until I Finish It. We are in Matthew chapter 12 still. Today we're going to be starting at verse 38. Continuing on, and it begins. One day some teachers of religious law and Pharisees came to Jesus and said, "Teacher, we want you to show us a miraculous sign to prove your authority." But Jesus replied, "Only an evil, adulterous generation would demand a miraculous sign, but the only sign I will give them is the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was in the belly of the great fish for 3 days and 3 nights, so will the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. The people of Nineveh will stand up against this generation on Judgment Day and condemn it, for they repented of their sins at the preaching of Jonah. Now someone greater than Jonah is here, but you refuse to repent. The Queen of Sheba will also stand up against this generation on Judgment Day and condemn it, for she came from a distant land to hear the wisdom of Solomon. Now someone greater than Solomon is here, but you refuse to listen. When an evil spirit leaves a person and goes into the desert, seeking rest but finding none, then it says, 'I will return to the person I came from.' So it returns and finds its former home empty, swept, and in order. Then the spirit finds 7 other spirits more evil than itself, and they all enter the person and live there. And so that person is worse off than before. That will be the experience of this evil generation." I had to pause for a minute because this is a word right here, but let's break it down, right? So the Pharisees come up to Jesus and tell him, "Jesus, perform a miraculous sign for us to prove that you are who you say you are, to prove your authority." And like at this point, it's just ridiculous. Like, what are we even doing, right? And so Jesus basically is telling them, only an evil, adulterous generation would require such a demand of all of the works that I have already done, of all of the things that you have seen with your own 2 eyes, for you to come here and try to demand of me to perform some miraculous sign at your beckoning call is just pure evil and disrespectful to the highest degree. And he says, Jonah was in the belly of a whale and went to preach to the people of Nineveh, and they repented for their sins. Yet here I am, someone greater than he, and you refuse to accept it. The Queen of Sheba came from a distant land to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and yet someone who is greater than Solomon is here standing right in front of you, and you still refuse to accept it. So Jesus tells the Pharisees about an evil spirit when it leaves a person. It goes out into the desert and it attempts to find rest, but it can't find any, and so it wants to go back to where it came from. And when it goes back to where it came from, it finds everything empty and in order, and so it goes and gets 7 more spirits, more evil than it originally was, and then re-enters the person it originally came from, effectively making the person over 7 times worse than they were before. And that will be the experience of the Pharisees and the generation on Judgment Day.